Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
Artemis II lifts off. Trump addresses the nation. The U.S. weighs leaving NATO, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. NASA launched 4 astronauts towards the moon Wednesday evening, the first crewed deep space flight in more than 50 years. The Artemis II crew lifted off from Kennedy Space Center at 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time aboard the Space Launch System rocket, generating 8.8 million pounds of thrust. Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Koch, and Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen are on an approximately 10-day trip around the moon and back. The crew could travel farther from Earth than any humans in history, potentially breaking the record of about 248,655 miles set by Apollo 13 in 1970. The mission will test life support systems and critical operations in deep space, paving the way for future lunar landings and eventual crewed missions to Mars. The next attempt to land on the moon, Artemis IV, is expected to take place in 2028. President Trump opened his primetime address to the nation Wednesday night by congratulating the Artemis II astronauts. God bless those 4 unbelievable astronauts, he said. Trump then turned to the war, saying military objectives against Iran are nearing completion, and vowing to bomb the regime back to the Stone Ages over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Trump called the surge in gas prices short-term and blamed it entirely on Iranian attacks on oil tankers, promising prices would rapidly come back down once the war ends. Iran denied seeking a ceasefire and said the Strait of Hormuz would remain closed. Trump said the waterway will open up naturally because Iran will need to sell off to rebuild. The Department of Homeland Security funding crisis that has plagued Washington and the country for nearly 7 weeks, upending airports, jeopardizing American safety, and ultimately becoming the longest ever partial government shutdown, is finally on track to end. Congressional Republicans announced a new deal on April 1st, saying the House of Representatives would agree to pass a previously approved bipartisan Senate bill to fully fund DHS minus Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol. At the same time, they said they'd fast-track separate legislation to secure more long-term dollars for those same agencies. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Leader John Thune announced the plan on Wednesday to fully fund DHS through both the appropriations and reconciliation processes, aiming to fund border security for 3 years and end the record-long partial government shutdown. President Donald Trump rattled NATO allies on Wednesday morning as he strongly suggested that the U.S. was weighing whether to pull out of the transatlantic military alliance. I would say it's beyond reconsideration, Trump told the Telegraph newspaper when asked if he would think twice about the U.S.'s membership of the alliance after the Middle East conflict is over. NATO allies have infuriated Trump by resisting joining the U.S. and Israeli assault on Iran, despite numerous terrorist attacks on European soil funded by Iran. European countries have also resisted requests from the president for them to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial energy waterway that Europe depends on and Tehran has effectively blocked in retaliation for the bombardment. The Supreme Court appears poised to strike down an executive order that President Trump signed on the first day of his present term. The order would end birthright citizenship for babies born in the U.S. to parents who are in the country temporarily or unlawfully, upending the long-standing common interpretation of the 14th Amendment. During oral arguments yesterday, the justices asked pointed questions of the government lawyer defending the order, which lower courts have blocked, expressing concerns about its legal basis and practicality. SpaceX has filed a confidential draft registration for an initial public offering with the Securities and Exchange Commission in what would likely be a record-setting listing, Bloomberg reported on Wednesday. The company, which recently merged with Elon Musk's AI company xAI, could seek a valuation above $1.75 trillion, making it the largest IPO in history. That's the Raw Naked Truth for April 2nd, 2026. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.